First of all, thanks everyone for listening to this episode of Level Up. We have a couple visitors from Cogswell Motors. I'll let both of you introduce yourselves and any titles that you want.
Jacob Reddell, sales consultant. Been there 6.5 years. Actually just celebrated that Monday. Also do backup F&I, which is finance. So I'm the last guy you see to sign all the paperwork. So.
Okay.
I'm Ed Schwartz, been a sales manager for probably 22 years. First 13 years I was in finance also, so I've been there 35 years total.
Wow. And how do you end up with the same company for 35 years?
Well, one, it was a good profession for me, and it was it matched my degree. I have a business degree, and I came out of a small business background, and sales was just a natural progression for me. It's something I'm comfortable in. I've always liked cars, and cars are very interesting. The industry itself can be very consuming. So once you get used to automobiles, you really get into it. I'm not even an old car nut, but the selling and, like I said, modern automobiles and the technology coming on now has really added a whole other step in learning how to sell and deliver a car. So cars are just a very interesting subject. It was one I was comfortable with, kind of fell into, just strictly because they felt I could have a future in sales. And anyway, it's something I've managed to stick with for 35 years, and probably without a doubt be the last full-time profession I have. So.
What does it mean to you to be a car salesman? What's your goal? How do you view the job you do? What is your mission when you're interacting with a potential customer?
Well, once again, a potential customer is something that every one of us have to realize only does this once every 4, 5, 6, 7 years, 8, 10 years. You could possibly do it every couple. Most time that's different people in the household. So it's something you have to be careful with, helping a customer make the second biggest buying decision in their life, because the biggest one's going to be normally a house, their residence, and possibly 2 or 3 of those. But when it comes to that next step, that next purchase, it's going to be an automobile, and automobiles in plural, because throughout the years, even the best automobiles have shelf lives. 10 years is a long time. 3 or 4 or 5 years is just when people like to trade. So it depends a lot on how often that customer wants to trade. But it's something you have to be careful with. The fact that it is a major decision for them, for something that we do 2 or 3 times a day, every day, 5 or 6 days a week. So, I enjoy it. I really, when I see a customer that's really happy with their car purchase, it thrills me probably as much, if not more, than it does the customer, because I don't have any anxiety about having to pay for it. So I'm the lucky guy that gets to get them all happy and move them on. But it's a very fulfilling, type job, and it's something that you can do generation to generation to generation with customers. And I'm certainly seeing a couple of generations and working on 3. If that has actually came through Cogswell Motors and purchased automobiles and just continue down the family line. So it's a big decision, and something that we have to, as a car sales professional, have to realize that for a customer. It's a major expenditure, and it's a monthly gift that keeps on giving, as far as paying for those vehicles. But it can be a very happy occasion. And if we made that help make that customer's decision the correct one, then we very well could have a customer for life. And that's what anybody's looking to do if you have dedicated to a particular field, is to keep that customer coming back, more than just one time.
So. Okay. Is this the first sales role that you had once you got out of school?
Once I got out of school, probably first sales, was mainly to find that customer, and then to try and maintain that customer. If that's the question, the key is maintaining a customer. So long-term relationships with anybody in business, whether it be, a daily sale, whether it's a cup of coffee you pick up every morning, or if it's once every 4, 5, 6 years, or in the case of realtors, maybe people really like to buy houses and sell them every 10 years, and a lot of folks every 20 or 30 years. As they pretty much buy a house as a need. They keep getting bigger and bigger as they increase children, and then a lot of times the end of life to get smaller. But with an automobile, There could be some changes in size and need, but that's a lot of times on a base, per customer, per need basis, and it's also just what you want. People like new cars every 3 or 4 years. Then you have people that trade. But so that's the key in car sales and any sales, I believe, is just a long-term relationship with your customer. That if you intend to be around long enough to sell them more than one time, and fortunately, I have been, and been surrounded by a lot of people that have been. And that's just the best. That's the best approach. Try to make a customer for life out of them.
All right. Oh, Jacob. So is this the first sales job that you've had?
No, not necessarily. I mean, first car sales at a reputable dealership and everything like that. Yeah, I would say so. Did worked around, sold some parts, ATV. Shout out to Hubbard Power Sports. Great people there. Worked for them for a little bit, and then got at Cogswell, and they gave me a shot. A kid off the street with really no auto sales experience, and the rest is history, man. Great company to work for. I love all these guys to death that I work with, guys and gals. It's just been an awesome opportunity for me. Really life-changing if you think about it. Never would I thought I'd be where I'm at now in a career like I am, and it's all thanks to you guys. So that's something I can never appreciate you enough for.
Yeah, I was working at Cogswell very briefly for like 9-10 months when you showed up. Yep. Let's go back to that time. I mean, that's been what, like you said, almost 7 years ago, 7-8 years ago. How did the first month go?
First month's definitely intimidating. You get out there, and I was around. We had a lot of seasoned vets at that time on the floor. I was definitely the youngest guy, probably maybe in the history of Cogswell Motors as a salesperson. I don't know. Definitely different pace, man. It's definitely exhilarating. You get your first one on the board and get that first customer started out in a vehicle, and once that's done, man, the rest is downhill. It just kind of takes over, and you just want to keep on.
So did you just get it right off the bat? I mean,
I think within maybe the first month or two, it wasn't one of those things. First day on the floor, I didn't get that sale, but I remember it like it was yesterday. Definitely, just looked outside, seen a guy looking at a green Chevrolet Silverado. I think it was a 2014 on the used lot, and actually a local business owner here in town, Pina Gonzalo Landscaping, and went out and talked to him, and he liked the truck. We added a couple accessories on it for him, and he bought it that day. Like I said, I remember like it was yesterday. You never forget the first one. So,
okay, all right. And you've been here for several years now. Mm-hmm. Why have you? What about Cogswell has gotten you to stick around?
I think it's just more of like a family environment. A lot of these guys older than me kind of took me under their wing. I call Ed. He's kind of like my work dad. They all kind of take care of me, and they did from day one. Met a lot of good people, a lot of great friends that I'll have for life, not only just in sales but service, everybody. And I think it's just a good family environment. I think they're good to the community, good for the community, and that's really what matters the most to me. I try to, keep the community first. I love Russellville. Plan to be here for the rest of my life. Plan to be at Cogswell for as long as I'm working. So for me, it was just that. They're really community based, and a lot of tenure guys there. That's what means the most to me. You walk into any business, and if it's a revolving door, it's probably not the right place for you in certain aspects. But to see those guys stay there for 30, 40, we've got Carl's been there 57 years, Richard 44, and Ed 36, 35. Even David Roberts, 20-plus guy. So that's what means the most to me, is just seeing that and knowing that's what I want to be one day. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So you've been – Cogswell's been in Russellville the whole time, right?
Right.
Since
well, Cogswell
75
first,
years now.
Got involved in the car business. The great-grandfather, he was actually worked for Ford Motor Company, and he retired from Ford Motor Company, and in 1949 he bought the local dealership from a gentleman named Ray Lee. and there's actually, I think, a pair of brothers that owned it. Ray Lee, it was started out as Lee Brothers Motors back in, I think, the 30s, and certainly in the 40s. And by 49, Cogswell bought it from Ray Lee, and it was called Ray Lee Motors. And they were downtown. The Laws building now where Allen and U Laws has their office is actually one of the walls I think was retained from the original dealership. Is actually built by, I hope I'm right in this, I believe a grandmother of theirs. And so anyway, that they retained part of one of the walls just to retain some of the heritage. But 49 is when the Cogswell family bought it, and it moved out to its actual current location in 1966. We've had multiple additions and the remodels since then, most recent being 2000. Car lines have come and gone. Some of them, the manufacturers has ended, and other ones, that maybe wasn't a good area for a particular car line, and it also went. We've had a few motorcycle / four-wheeler lines back a few years back at were good lines. Like I said, wasn't necessarily a good fit for people in the car business, but we're primarily Ford, Lincoln, which of course obviously Lincoln is owned by Ford Motor Company, and we got a Mazda line, which is a very good import line we're very happy with. So.
Okay. And what's the difference with someone who's not in the car industry? You're talking about good lines, bad lines, things that don't work out. I don't know what any of that means. So as a car dealership, how do you know you have, what do you look for in a line of from a manufacturer?
Yeah, well, one thing, and it really comes down to how many you sell within a certain area. Some vehicles are much more specialized than others. Obviously, your domestic manufacturers, the big three out of Detroit, they're pretty well, if you got enough market to support anything, you can support a domestic. Imports are several very strong imports, and they've kind of, they've found their niche and their market share in the United States automobile market. And then there's some more specialized ones. The Mazda has been one that's always been a good line, and it's really of late, the quality has just been, has really improved. And there was never really a quality issue or lack of quality issue. But all their J.D. Power comparisons, car and driver, we just had a CX-50, which is about a year-old car line, just won its class in the car and driver. So it's a line that anytime somebody, if you have a researcher, I invite them to do the research on our Mazda line. So that had a lot to do with the way it fit with us. The Ford, Ford pickups is just, has been number one selling vehicle, for ages and ages, 40-something years, if not reaching close to 50 years in the United States. And so it's definitely a good line for a Southern car dealership. And anyway, and sport utility vehicles have pretty much taken over the market. Not a lot of sedans, even the smaller sport utility vehicles that are built on car platforms are still built with the the sport utility design in mind. So cars, trucks, sports utilities, like I said, the sport utilities and the pickup trucks have definitely, just taken over the North American market. Worldwide markets, you have a little different emphasis, but definitely pickups and the practicality of a sport utility vehicle for young families is really, has really come into the market and kind of dominated the market. So not as many sedans out there anymore. So anyway, it's a lot the car line that you have that fits your area and your market. And once again, your domestics are always good anywhere you're at. And like I said, we got a chance to pick up the Mazda line back in the early 90s, and it's worked out real well for us. We're real happy with our Mazdas. So.
All right. Yeah, you mentioned a remodel as well. Would I recognize the inside if I went back in there? Is the inside remodeled as well?
Oh, absolutely. You probably wouldn't recognize it, man. Sometimes that's still hard for me to look around and see, and kind of picture what it used to look like.
Yeah. It changed so much interior that even, once again, this was 20, so it hasn't been that many years ago that the remodel, it's still hard to visualize exactly where the old walls were at, the old offices, and it went down basically to the superstructure, the red iron. And, they even redid the roof, but, it was the original, structure to the roof was there. But like I said, the red iron is where they started. And it's a certain type, I believe that's called the truss mark design that Ford, was, if you notice any of the remodeled Ford dealerships here the last that last decade of the teens up to about 2021 are pretty much the same design. And that's by some strict guidance by Ford as to how you can do your remodel. You may have to write the check when the time comes, but you're going to do it within guidelines. And they've got a group of people that do a lot of. There's actually, and then a guy based out of Central Arkansas does a lot of the architectural redesigns, remodel work for Ford Motor Company, and the tune of several hundred of them back in 20 he had actually done. So it was beyond just the ones in Arkansas. This guy was really accomplished, and they take your dimensions, they take your, where you're at. They have to take into account how much space you have, because you can't rob space from outside if there's not any out there already. A lot of them are two-story. Fortunately, we were such that we could just spread out and keep everything on one floor. So the remodel went real well. It's totally different. People still come in and been in 3 or 4 years, and they said, "Wow, I haven't been in since the new one. This doesn't look anything like the old one," and it does it by design. It's a very modern, very open, a little more welcoming. You don't, there's chairs everywhere. It actually looks like a cafe inside of it, more so than it does just a little waiting area. We've got a lot of TVs, and the concessions and stuff have expanded quite a bit. A little more comfortable, approach, and which works out well. People who are waiting for a vehicle to be serviced or maintained, or just waiting for someone to show them a car or something. Just a lot more home-like interior than what it was before.
So that's pretty cool. What I'm wondering about, you kind of said something about the remodel. Was it y'all's decision to remodel, or did Ford? I still don't understand the relationship between a car dealership and a manufacturer, but was Ford basically like, "Hey, we're going to remodel your building"?
Yeah, Ford did not say that. They started encouraging a remodel quite a few years before, but ultimately the pressure can come in a certain way, but they can't force you to remodel. The remodel was something that our general manager, Laura Drown, along with the basically the corporate head, decided that was past due and we needed to do. And so Ms. Brown pulled the plug on it there, or flipped the switch, I guess you could say, and we started a remodel. Now, I don't know how timing worked out that we was in the middle of a worldwide pandemic when we decided to do it, but sometimes timing works out to be better afterwards than it does during the actual remodel. But so it was something that was not forced on us. And like I said, in all honesty, Ford didn't participate monetarily at all in it. So.
Okay, I see. I'm just... as someone, again, not in the car industry, now I'm getting a better picture of how, like, the relationship between a dealership and a manufacturer may work. They just wanted you to do it. They didn't make you, and nor did they even help you do it.
And you'll see
but
also,
aside from maybe the designs,
also a lot of industries where there is an actual, McDonald's. You don't build a McDonald's what you want it to look like. You have certain guidelines you follow. If you build a McDonald's as a franchise, in effect. We franchise Ford, Lincoln, and Mazda automobiles. The driving force behind a lot what we do is Ford decisions. They've got guidelines and stuff, but no, they didn't force us to. It was past due, and we decided to do it right at the end of 2019, and in February 2020 we started. So.
Yeah. So, obviously Cogswell has been in Russellville this whole time. The community's, as you've said, a big part of what y'all do. I'm interested, Ed, like, how has Russellville changed over the past 35 years?
Well, it definitely an expansion area-wise. The downtown is an area that's not near as much of now of late, definitely a revival down here, but not as much of a day-to-day type, hub of activities. Your Walmart has just been moving further and further out, where you have your big department stores, whatever it might be. There's either going to be in a mall or there's going to be other stores built up around them. And of course, as they've changed their location, they've left some still thriving shopping centers going and stuff. So that's, we've seen a progression out from the inner city, and I think that's probably the case no matter what size community you live in. The inner city has gotten a little bit older, and so when the people come in to spend the money, they'll generally buy the property a little bit further out, which is something actually we as a dealership had done in the 60s and recognized how much the inner city in our case, the center part of town was restricting as far as areas. You know, you're landlocked, basically. You can't buy the next building and tear it down to display more. You can't do that to get more parking.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why all of your corporations move more and more and more out from the center part of any town. And, you know, Russellville's done a good job kind of bringing in. There's several other towns around that's done a good job bringing the downtown back. Pardon me, a lot is entertainment districts. And of course, we've done an awful lot with the landscaping down here. I noticed we're really in the middle of several projects there, and greening up the city. You know, a lot of cities, of course, are planned around green type architecture and, you know, agricultural type practices. So anyway, it's interesting to see. But a lot of your commerce, your day-to-day commerce, we consider more of your grocery stores or your Walmart as being a day-to-day commerce. They moved away from the inner city part, one for parking, two just for, you know, to get away from the landlocked and, you know, actual physical expansion then. So
Yeah. Something that I've noticed that too. I feel like the downtown thing's been pretty recent, you know, past 10 years. I saw some pictures of downtown from like 10, 15 years ago, and it's hard to even recognize some of the buildings that look completely different. You know, where the old bank is at, it's kind of boarded up almost. It wasn't boarded up, but it just looked different.
Yeah.
So it's been cool to see.
yeah, it's definitely a lot more. You know, what I've noticed living on the west side of town for 30-something years and working on the east side of town, and I've told my wife this quite a bit. She's not from this area originally, but used to go home after work, and I'm talking about 6:30, 7 o'clock. There was nothing going on downtown. And you do that now, and every parking spot's full. And if it's what is that called, a First Friday, if it's one of them, you'll be lucky if you get down the street, which is great to see because it's just a lot of activity. So that's one thing that's changed in most recent history, probably the last 10 or 15 years, is that there's definitely a lot more commerce, whatever type of it may well be, a lot of restaurants, you know, and that type of stuff downtown. And that's good to see. I enjoy seeing that. Like I said, it was absolutely ghost town 15 years ago. So
Yeah, and there's been also recent efforts to like kind of keep a lot of the college graduates in this area too, because I think, you know, just for example, my plan growing up was to leave Russellville. You know, not that I didn't like Russellville, but really liked some other areas, and especially in the industry I was planning on being in. I mean, even this industry right now, like media, there's really not. I'm not going to say there's nothing. You know, we do have amazing people working at the paper and the radio, but as far as you know, digital media, there's really not a lot. So I was thinking, all right, I'm going to move somewhere else. But now there's recent efforts to kind of start building some more of that stuff up here. You know that old Ford building next to Casey's in South Arkansas? So there was never a deal. I'll tell you what they're doing in there in a second. You may already know. But there was never there's a Ford like capstone on the building. So there was never a dealership in there that you know?
If it was the original one. And I think the original one was owned by the Walthals, Walthall. And that may be a little off, but it's very close. And it may well have started there. It's got more of a dealership design than the current one does. But when they still in the ownership of the Walthall family, it moved down to the one that's now currently the Laws Law Firm. And then, like I said, that's family. Now, 26 might well, I think the date says 1926, Ford Motor Company. Could well have been a dealership there. It's not one that, you know, that we were ever associated with, but it could have been the original one that came in. And that's, if you know the history of automobiles, there's a lot in the teens and 20s and 30s, a lot of expansion into outside of the major metro areas. There become a market, there come a need, a want for automobiles. And so when you have that need, somebody's going to move in and fill it. And obviously the manufacturers started setting up dealerships. And that could well have been the early one. I've heard that. I really can't give you a good idea on that. But I don't think we go down and just put that header up there. I don't think any company would do that just for advertising. So I believe originally probably in 1926, I hope I have that date correct. I believe there was probably a Ford dealership there, the original one in Pope County.
Yeah. There's also, you know, a family name around here, Ford, like the Ford building, 500 building.
Right.
So I don't know. Anyways, I don't know if that had If it wasn't a dealership, maybe it had something to do with their family.
Yeah.
I don't know. But now they're in that building. They're renovating it, and they're building a co-create innovation hub. And it's like a place where someone as a business owner, an entrepreneur, can go and get resources on how to grow a business, market their business. The plan, I guess, from what I know, is they're going to have office spaces that you can rent as well. But then, like, people on site there, again, help businesses like a lawyer or a grant writer, that type of thing. So that'll be cool to see. It'll be cool to
That's interesting.
Maybe bring some more startups around here.
Yeah.
I think that'd be attractive to the younger people, especially. Jacob, do you think there's anything we haven't hit on that we should?
Yeah, I think one of the things we wanted to talk about was the 75 acts of service. So being our 75th year, we've decided to do kind of 75 acts of service is what it's called. Whether that be, if you've got something going on, you need a little donation or just a little start to get it going. We've done that. One of the ones that I've been involved with here recently was Pottsville High School, which is where you and I both graduated from. The unified sports team won the state championship, which is...
What's a unified sports team?
So it combines kind of like the Special Olympics and then the Pottsville High School boys and, I guess, girls basketball team, and kind of combined both of them, and they were able to play together on the same court, and ended up winning the state championship for that little league.
Nice.
And we're a little short on getting their state championship rings, and I remember scrolling on through Facebook at home one night and seeing their picture and seeing how happy the kids were, and then once I read that they were a little short, I was like, it's almost, to me, it was like, man, what can I do to help these kids get their championship ring? It's a huge deal for these kids, and of course, Pottsville High School allot's a certain amount, and I guess they were just a little bit shy of that. So got with Maddie, my marketing and advertising director, and she kind of heads on all of the donations and stuff for us. And got with her and said, I really want to try to help these kids out, and ended up donating some money to them. We've also done taking donuts to teachers. That was another big thing. Ed's wife is a teacher, David's wife is a teacher, Richard's wife is a teacher. So a lot of our employees have, either spouses or someone they know that works in the education system, which is huge, especially not only just in Russellville, Arkansas, but everywhere. Those people definitely don't get enough recognition for what they do. And I can name tons of teachers right now that influenced me at a young age. So giving back to them was a big part for us too. Just the community in general, giving back to them. Of course, we'll probably end up doing more than 75. That's one thing.
So what's the 75 years in business, and then 75 acts of service over this year?
Correct, yeah. So over the year of 2024, we started, pretty much, just full steam ahead, starting off in January. And, it's just been going on. We try to do we've got the big check, so if you've got something coming up, if you're watching this and if you have something that, needs a donation or anything like that, definitely holler at us and we'll do our best to help you out. But like I said, that just kind of goes back to what Cogswell does for the community, and that's what means the most to me. So
some of them are service oriented, as you spoke, some appreciation, a couple dozen donuts, out to a teacher, it doesn't get a lot of recognition. I don't know how much it meant. My wife acted like she appreciated it. She's a career teacher, 40 years teaching this year. So, anybody wants to be appreciated, and we probably forget a lot about those type people. When we go to a doctor, we forget about a lot of the people that get you to see that doctor, the administrative people. So there's just a lot of folks that, once again, we can't cover every one of them, but groups that are obviously sometimes kind of forgotten about. We just thought we'd do a few things. We've done a concession stand or two, just worked and helped, some contributions there. So it's just a matter of, once again, giving back to the community, not necessarily always writing a check, but just some acts, and just make sure that people realize they are appreciated, even if it's not every moment and every day. So that's a lot of what these acts of kindness. We had to kind of pick our words, carefully when we decided 75 what. 75 is easy, 75 years, and then we kind of had to figure out where we wanted to go. And hopefully the acts of kindness kind of describe what some of the things that we've done. And that's basically what we're trying to do and been doing, and it kind of wrapped up in a nutshell there. So.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Did a concession stand. Man, I really appreciate those people. Gosh, that was crazy, man. It was like halftime at a basketball game. You got like 20, 30 people deep, just 4 lines of that. So, everybody's wanting nachos and pickles and drinks, and it's just, you're everywhere. So that was definitely, I did that. I would do it again, but maybe
you wouldn't do it again?
I would do it again,
you would
but
do it again.
maybe not as gun-ho about it. If they needed me, I would do it. But no, it wasn't great. It wasn't.
Have you ever worked in a restaurant?
Haven't. I've always had the dream.
That's
It's always kind of been my dream.
That was a taste.
Yeah, no.
A taste of it.
I've always wanted to own my own restaurant. I know Ed's been there.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes business ownership, you learn lessons that may not be the best route. There's a lot of headaches involved there. The administrative part is important, but also, there's a lot of regulations, and and taxes are another issue. You got to make sure you have all that. There's pluses, and there can be some pluses to going in every day, and if you get that check every week or 2 weeks deposited in your account, there's a plus there too. So once again, it's business ownership would be great. But once again, it's there's not beyond the commitment. There's just a lot of things has to go well in order to make it work for you then. So.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. That's awesome. Community is what it's about. You got to be serving the community. Just making sure you're benefiting other people, right? So it's cool to see y'all and your team take that seriously and do it well. I think that about covers everything I wanted to talk about. Yeah. What about y'all?
Pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yep. Paul, thanks for having us. We appreciate it. So.
Yeah,
knew that little guy at workforce out there would have his own company someday. So we appreciate what you're doing here in Russellville, and thanks from me and Cogswell Motors. So.
Yep. Came out of the BDC.
Hey,
there you go.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
There we go. I like it. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Again, Ed Schwartz, Jacob Reddell from Cogswell Motors. Y'all can go visit them. Pretty much everyone knows where that's at on East Main. Yep. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.